Listen, guys, this will probably get me in trouble on TikTok, but I'm in public and I am really fucking stoned.
We're back. And I'm wearing shoes this time. Yeah, I always forget to put my shoes on when I'm doing this. Then I start playing with my socks. I went through this before and I told myself I wouldn't do that anymore. Then last episode, the cycle just started all over again. Anyway, we got a UFC fighter coming on the show today, Michael Chandler. I'm a big fan of this guy. This dude doesn't play the victim card. I'm just tired of listening to people complaining about their position in life and blaming everyone else for their setbacks in this country. So today, I want to talk to somebody who fought for the lightweight championship of the world because he put in the work to get there. What a concept, huh? Putting effort into your life and going after something that seems out of reach for most people. How about we start listening to someone who does that instead of TikTok and Debbie and Lil Shit Stain the rapper? I don't even know if there is a Little Shit Stain. If he doesn't exist yet, I'm sure he's being born right now somewhere. There is a Lil Poopy. I did a video on him a while back. I couldn't believe he was a real thing. The video's kind of old now. I wonder if he kept his name. Let's look him up. So what do we do here? Let's see. Like if I go on YouTube and search for Lil Poopy this year, what am I gonna find? What's this? Southside Kizzy featuring Poopy the Don. Is this him? Poopy the Don. It is. He changed his name to Poopy the Don. Why would he continuously keep naming himself after a bowel movement? Let's listen to some of this. There's no way this is gonna be good, right? There's no way.
I've been tripping off these bad drugs. Your bitch waiting on me. I had to bag up.
I be tripping on these bad drugs. Your bitch be waiting on me. Yep, just like I thought. Another stinker. At least it goes with his brand.
Your bitch waiting on me. I had to bag up.
You know, I miss the days when artists used hip-hop as a platform to express themselves in a way to inspire you and make you think. You know, what guys like Nas, KRS-One, and Common used to do. And they're still doing it. It just doesn't get as much play as some of these auto-tune mumble guys. It just seems to be like the people who brag about doing drugs and sleeping with other people's girlfriends is what's popular.
I've been tripping off these bad drugs. Your bitch waiting on me. I had to bag up.
What a guy that Little Pooper is, huh? I got to give a shout out to my sponsor, Atlas VPN. This is actually pretty cool. If you're on Netflix, right? Say you search for a movie and it's not there. I hate that. A lot of those movies you're searching for you can't watch because they're blocked in certain countries. But if you get Atlas VPN, it unlocks those movies. They got an offer for $1.39 a month. This is the lowest priced VPN that bypasses those restrictions. Like watch, if I search for Resident Evil, it's not there. Now, if I just click on Germany, there it is. There's tons of movies that you could get that they just block here in the U.S. You could just pretend you're a citizen of another country. Like you want to watch Hostel, right? You search for it, it's not there. Switch over to the UK, there it is. This works for the other streaming sites too. Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, Hulu. It's worth it. $1.39 a month. Come on. There's a link in the description. What it's basically doing is hiding your location. It gives you a whole new IP and DNS address. There's a data breach monitor feature too. You put in your email, it scans the internet and looks for any type of data breaches like emails, names, passwords. Put on notifications and it gives you a heads up to change your password if it finds something. Atlas VPN is supported on any device. You get a 30-day money-back guarantee for all subscription purchases. It's $1.39, man. Come on. NYC shrink tells Yale audience she fantasizes about shooting white people in the head. Oh, that's nice. A psychiatrist, too, huh? Yeah, that's someone you want helping you sort out your life. Dr. Aruna Kilanani. Who goes to see her? And what are those conversations like? Dr. Aruna, I don't know what it is, but I'm always depressed when I'm at work. Well, let me ask you this. How many white people work above you? The majority of them? Well, maybe we can figure out a way to shoot them without anyone knowing. Surely it could create some job openings. This would help you get into a higher position, and who knows, maybe you'll feel a lot better. Excuse me? Oh, sorry, I was just thinking out loud. I tend to fantasize about shooting white people at times. Oh, really? Now this is where the patient becomes the shrink. Tell me, Dr. Aruna, about these thoughts you're having. And by the way, this is what she actually said to these students. Are you ready for this? I had fantasies of unloading a revolver into the head of any white person that got in my way, burying their body, and wiping my bloody hands as I walked away relatively guiltless with a bounce in my step. Like I did the world a fucking favor. Well, that's one way to get on the FBI watch list. Meanwhile, Gina Carano is fired from Disney and Dr. Killawhitey over here keeps her medical license. See, this is why there's no real justice. It's a free-for-all. Anything goes in this country. There's no consistency. It's the Wild West. No media uproar, no celebrity outrage, no roundtable discussion on the news. You know, this is all from a lecture that she titled The Psychopathic Problem of the White Mind. Now, it's funny because I've been writing my own lecture with a similar title. It's a biography. Yeah, it's called The Psychopathic Problems of a Racist Cunt Named Aruna. Yeah, I basically just copied the transcript of her original lecture and gave it a more fitting title. That's all. It's incredible what's out there, isn't it? It's fascinating. People fascinate me. Oh, you'll love this one. If you follow me on Instagram, you watch this saga unfold on my stories. This guy messages me, right? I love these, by the way. I probably get hit up for money 20 times a week. I love the little stories the scam ones come up with. They're so bad at crafting a story. Ready for this? Hello. I don't know you, but I wouldn't want it if I didn't really need it. I will marry. It is a bit difficult in Turkey. Would you like to support me a bit? So I write, okay, I'll be arriving in Turkey tomorrow at 2 p.m. on my private jet to pick you up. Will you be ready? Then he just goes, yes. So he believed me. So now when you go to his account here, it's him and his BMW. Yeah, the guy who has no money. I mean, he didn't even make an attempt to cover that up. Like he thinks nobody's going to ask him a question about that. Then he sends me a photo of this just demolished house with just walls standing, no roof, and just rubble on the ground. And he just goes, my home. So then I just said, is that where you park your BMW? Then he has the weirdest response. I don't know what to make of this. He goes, because she is not mine. I hunt beautiful girls from the internet. What does that mean? Do I even want to know? So then I share his account on my account. His name is Zingenzuger or something. And I just say, Zingenzuger needs help, guys. That was my way of helping him out. See, at this point, I'm thinking he's going to pick up on, that I'm goofing on him. But nope. So then he sends me a video of some dilapidated area. He just starts filming the ground. And he thanks me.
Jubitons, thank you for your help. Greetings from Turkey, Kayseri. Hi, bro. Keep fitting.
To which I responded, you're welcome, Zingenzuger. Looking forward to our new life together in Turkey. We will renovate. #married life. Then he finally figures this out. He responds to me with, I'm blocking you so you can't make fun of me. What I love so much about this is that he changed his profile picture to a wheel. Like he realized that he's like, oh fuck, I screwed up on this. So this is a really bad attempt here. So maybe he'll get better, at a scam. So then I just responded, you don't want to marry me anymore? I thought we had something special. And then, I alerted my audience that the wedding was off. Then the best is I got another guy right after this messages me and he goes, hey dude, I'm trying to go to America. Can you help me? And then he gives me, it looks like some international bank account number. I don't know what it is. And then I just said, my fiance just broke up with me. Could you give me some time? He responds, I'm so sorry. I don't know. Like, I want to interview these people. This is like human behavior that I've never experienced firsthand, like in person with people. People surprise me every day. They really do. There's always something new. It's amazing. Anyway, let's switch topics. The AC's broken here. My back's sweating. Ugh. Big scene in here. Anyway, let's go to the mailbag. We haven't done this in a while. We got a question from Romina from Armenia.
At this point, we're pretty well aware of what annoys you. Now we kind of want to know what doesn't annoy you. What are some silly things, especially, that you find entertaining and interesting? Give us a hint into the world of Joey that's not annoyed.
Romina, thank you for the question, but I hate everything. I'm just kidding. Now, I'll tell you what doesn't annoy me. You know what doesn't annoy me? Things that make sense and ideas that come from the heart. Whether it's music, a book, a theory, conversation, even a rant, people, it has to have heart. The root needs to come from a good place. A book someone writes called The Psychopathic Problem of the White Mind isn't something that comes from a good place. That comes from a heart filled with contempt and hatred. Someone flaunting their riches, degrading themselves, degrading others. It all comes from a place of narcissism and a demoralized spirit. You know what does come from a good place? Someone who speaks up against it. I like me for that, and anyone else who does too. I also like people who make things that make you feel good. Like a group of artists who create an album that you could listen to from front to back that takes you through all your emotions. When you listen to a song that makes your mind drift to the point where you get lost in your thoughts and start reflecting on things in your life. A piece of art someone creates that elicits an emotion in you. That's something that comes from a good place. I like those things. Things people do designed to inspire people, make them smile, make them laugh and feel good. Make them believe they can overcome and achieve anything. And you know what? This is a good segue into my next guest because he's one of those people.
If you are blessed enough to have 2 arms and 2 legs, if you are blessed enough to have a well-enabled, capable body, get in the game and fight. Get in the game and work out. Get in the game and stop watching from the sidelines. Start taking accountability. Start taking ownership for yourself and your life. Stop wishing for it more than you're willing to work for it, and you will get there.
So, my next guest is a former 3-time Bellator lightweight champion, currently a top contender in the UFC lightweight division, one of the most motivating guys you're ever going to come across, Michael Chandler. What's up, buddy?
Joey, man, I'm doing great, man. Thank you for the intro. I appreciate that. I'll try to live up to it.
Oh, you are, man. Dude, I got to say, every time one of your posts on Instagram pops up, I feel like I'm not doing enough. I mean, you're so dedicated to what you do, and you always have a motivating message that ties into how you're going to overcome an obstacle to achieve your next goal, and I think it's fucking awesome. But what bothers me is that here you are at peak physical and mental health. You worked your ass off to be able to achieve this. Meanwhile, half the country's overweight and depressed. Half the youth are on antidepressants, anxiety medicine. They're constantly offended by everything. You dedicated your life to pursuing your passion for a living. Meanwhile, these kids can't change a tire. They spend half their day taking pictures of themselves, twirling their arms in their bedroom for TikTok. Their heroes are degenerates like Cardi B. The media props these people up as some sort of inspiration. Meanwhile, you should be the one they're propping up. And they wonder why, when people experience a setback in life, they blame everyone but themselves for their position in life. Why doesn't your message resonate with these type of people? Are they just not exposed to these type of solutions? What's going on with everybody?
I don't know, and I will say I think my message resonates with more people than I thought. Obviously I fought outside the UFC for a very long time. Once I came into the UFC about a year ago, obviously the platform grew big time, and for every one, naysayer who's like, why is this guy always got a motivational quote, or this guy speaks in soliloquies, or this guy thinks he's a motivational speaker, he needs to spend more time in the gym. There's 100 positive comments. So I think the message is resonating, but I think just like everybody, just like your comedy, just like your platform, just like my platform, just like everybody, it's not going to be for everybody. Right. There's just going to be some, unfortunately, there's going to be miserable people who are going to constantly downplay and downgrade what you're saying, and they want to poke fun at you. But it's also, I think it happens in seasons. And I think eventually, just like the negative can continue to chip away at you, and you continue to lower your standards, you continue to lower your goals, lower your target, the positivity can chip away at your negativity, and you can eventually, somehow accidentally get exposed to me for too long. You might think a little bit more positive than you did yesterday. But so that's kind of my goal, kind of a message. And it's tough at times to hear the negativity, but it's also knowing that you're trying to do the right thing. Or you're just trying to be unapologetically you. That's why I'm a fan of you. That's why I'm a fan of you and what you do. You're just unapologetically you, and you say what you want, say what you mean, and you just hope it resonates with the people that it needs to resonate with.
That's why I like you too, man. And it's funny, and it's actually really interesting talking to someone like you who really only promotes a positive mindset, a positive lifestyle, healthy living, and all that stuff. And I find it really interesting that even someone like you gets haters. And where it's like me, it's like I'm very opinionated and I could be very polarizing. So I understand that. But I'm actually surprised that I don't get more haters. And of course I get them. But I don't get as much as I thought that I would. Because I think people at the heart of it, they can see where our hearts are. I feel like we're coming from a good place, and we really believe in what we're saying, and we're standing for good in some way. And people might not agree with it, but I feel like we always offer solutions when we're spouting off and preaching. At least we try to offer solutions. I mean, the sad thing is there's kids out there right now looking up to someone on TikTok who dances in crosswalks for a living, for inspiration. I mean, you're in the gym every day training to put your life on the line in a gladiator pit. Meanwhile, half the youth is offended if you use a wrong pronoun. I just feel like that guys like you are very necessary to change the tide, man.
I hope, I agree. And I guess really the good thing is it just comes from an authentic standpoint. I'm not trying to be inspirational. I'm not trying to be motivational. I don't wake up in the morning thinking, okay, what can I write today? What can I do today that's going to really inspire people? I'm really just trying to be me and do what I do. And, unfortunately, like you said, the youth right now is looking up to people that don't bring a lot of value or intrinsic value that's really going to stir their soul. They might bring them value on the surface level. And it's funny to me. Even in mixed martial arts, I just got done had lunch with a guy named Ed Milet. Probably a lot of your listeners have heard of him. He's a big time businessman, big time motivator. And we were just sitting there talking about, he's like, you really do things differently. The people that you seek out, the people that you try to align yourself with is a little bit different than a lot of the MMA fighters. And I said, Ed, while most MMA fighters want Drake and Lil Wayne and Justin Bieber and Snoop Dogg to be the guy that they align themselves with, I'm trying to align myself with Ed Milet and business people, big name people who are trying to make a change, trying to make a dent in the world. And maybe it's just, I am 35 years old. I'm not like I'm one of these young guys, and I've been around the block. But that's always kind of just been my message. And I think we are necessary. And I love what you do all of your stuff is based in comedy, and like you said, you're a polarizing figure. You're very opinionated, but if we don't bring shed light on the things that are happening in the world through from a comedic lens, through a comedic standpoint, through a, get a load of this guy kind of mentality, without that, we don't want to normalize it and act like it's okay, and that's not to take shots at anybody. That's just to say, hey, as human beings, you as Joey, me as Michael, me as my family, we need to be better. Everybody needs to be better, and you want to get better.
It's funny to your point about associating with like-minded people, business people, and people that kind of share your same mindset. Whereas you say, like, there's a crowd of people who kind of drift off into the entertainment side of things and then the vanity-driven stuff, and stuff maybe doesn't have a lot of substance to it as far as like a message is concerned. You mentioned that you grew up in a small town. I don't know about you, but where I grew up, there wasn't much inspiration as far as a collective mindset of people to gravitate towards who were motivated to pursue something big. And I always felt like I was alone in that journey. Did you feel that way growing up too?
Yeah, I mean, I think looking back now, it made sense because I wasn't I really kind of fell into the middle of the herd with that herd mentality of, the rich keep getting richer, the poor keep getting poorer. It's the government's fault. Outside those county lines, don't go outside those county lines, because if you go outside those county lines, there's only failure. You're either going to turn into one of those bad people who's outside those county lines, or you're going to end up falling flat on your face. And failing and falling flat on your face is the worst thing that you could possibly do. Play it safe, stay here, do what all the rest of us do. And I had that mentality for a very long time. And it wasn't until I went to college that I was like, wow, there's people all over the world, all over the country, outside those county lines that are good people. And then you start surrounding yourself with, my orthopedic surgeon ended up leading a Bible study, had tons of money because he was an orthopedic surgeon. Yet I saw the way that he lived. And he lived a very modest life and used all of his resources, all of his money, and all of his time to pour into people in the community. So I said, so the rich keep getting richer is what I thought. But when the rich get rich, they can use that money to serve. Or when people have success, that doesn't mean that you're going to rub people the wrong way. You don't need to dull your shine to make sure that people don't feel insecure around you, because that's what I did for a very long time. I was afraid of success because of what it might turn me into. So I went through the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs of growing into the man that I am today. And I'm sure I rubbed people the wrong way at times. I'm sure I missed weddings and I missed birthday parties and I missed family reunions because I was out pursuing something, but I'm still pursuing it. And I make no apologies because I'm trying to become the man that I am and do the things that God has called me to do.
Absolutely, man. You're living the American dream. I just don't think people realize how achievable living that dream really is. I mean, everyone's born with a different deck of cards. Some have more obstacles than others. But when you have people coming here from third world countries with no education, becoming CEOs, what's your excuse? They're coming here with a mission. They have that drive that you have that made you successful. I feel like when you grow up in this country, you have a head start over those people. What's keeping you from getting to where someone did here who grew up in a worse environment than you in an entirely different country? Maybe it's your mindset. Maybe the victim mentality is holding you back. Do people ever think that as a possibility? It drives me nuts. You're going to sit. A lot of people sit and point at all the obstacles in front of them. I mean, who has time for that? Find a way around them. Get after it. You can still bring attention to those obstacles while you're pursuing your goals, but to just stop in your tracks and focus on what's in your way and how it's not right, it's never going to get you where you want to be.
For sure. And it's never, and that's, you kind of brought up kind of the self-absorbedness of this newer generation. So with that, it's like people become so self-absorbed with the selfies and the TikToks and the way everything is moving, but they're not looking at themselves in a way to say, how can I be better as a human being? And I think, unfortunately, the direction that social media and the internet, how easy it is to get quote unquote famous on the internet these days by having no talent and just by doing silly things. And then there's people making 100 times more money than us by selling gummy bears on TikTok and doing all these crazy business things. There's a kid named that Ryan kid who opens up toys on the internet and made like $27 million by opening up toys and doing toy reviews. So where your grandparents, my grandparents' view of how hard it is to work and earn a dollar is so much different than what these kids are expecting these days. So they've lowered the threshold of how hard they need to work, and they have increased exponentially their expectation of how easy it should be to make a dollar. And it's either going to come to a screeching halt, crash and burn for a lot of them, or they could get lucky and make so much money that they end up doing all right, but it's not going to turn them into a high functioning individual of society, someone who is fully compelled to be a wholehearted human being, to be able to contribute to society and be the most important thing, which will raise the next generation, which is fathers and mothers, husbands and wives, and all of these things that are so important to creating good families, which end up in turn creating good men and women for the next generation. So we shall see.
Absolutely, man. It's funny because I've always been torn on that. When I see guys like that are making money doing stuff like that, it's like I always grew up to not to ever, not knock another man's hustle. But, it's funny. I almost look at it in some way as a byproduct of the opportunities that America has for everybody. I honestly, I'm very patriotic. Like I think America's a great country, and I think that there's a lot of, I think everybody has the ability to achieve anything in this country. So if you end up, the fact that you can be a toy collector and review toys and make millions of dollars doing that, our ancestors might go like, what? They can't relate to that. But isn't that a sign of how great the country is that you basically could do anything if you put your mind to it? I mean, honestly, I know you watched the Mayweather fight with Logan Paul. It's like, if you heard his post interview, he said, look how absurd it is that I'm in this position. So picture that toy collector. You would like to believe that kid knows how absurd his position is, but at least he uses his platform to say, hey, look, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. And it's kind of is the universal message for success, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's the universal message. Literally just hard work, surrounding yourself with the right people, and then applying yourself with unwavering commitment to what you want to do. And man, it's been true since the beginning of time. And now, like you said, that is the theme. You move to America because it's a land of opportunity. And that term was coined hundreds of years ago. But now this land of opportunity has exploded when it comes to actual opportunities, and you bring up like, never knock a man's hustle. I'm the same way. I'm a professional fighter who has trained day in and day out, dedicated my life to my craft, hand-to-hand combat, 12 years of wrestling and now 13 years of fighting. And I've been doing it, but I'm not mad that Logan Paul just made $20 million by being a YouTuber, by fighting Floyd Mayweather. I'm not mad that Jake Paul is doing what he's doing and making all this money. It's part of society and the way that things are going. Kudos to them. I'm in a similar vein. I'm in a combat sport. His is boxing and mine is mixed martial arts, albeit mine is obviously a lot more legitimate when it comes to the actual competition side of things, but it's all just entertainment, and it's all just the way that everything is moving. And I had this conversation yesterday. I was sitting in the sauna over at the YMCA, and we were just having this conversation. This guy's a filmmaker. He worked on a couple different shows, My 600-Pound Life, and a couple different things. He's like, man, it's crazy how easy it is and how competitive it has become, because you don't need these big sets and big cameras and big everything to create these high production type of things anymore, because there's other avenues. Anybody with an internet connection, a microphone and a phone, man, you can do anything. You can do whatever you want. So it's a blessing, but then also a curse, because people don't want to work that hard anymore, and people, and success comes so easy to the person to their right and the person to their left. They start comparing themselves about how easy Joe had it and how easy Sally had it. So it should be like that for me. And they forget how hard it actually is, no matter what you choose.
Yeah. I notice you're always rocking the American flag too, and I feel like it's like I gotta imagine that what we're talking about, kind of ties into that kind of, representing your country and what it offers and all that. I mean, like, I guess two questions, like what does it represent to you, and how do you feel about athletes who refuse to stand for the anthem?
Man, I am a red, white, and blue-blooded American, man. I love this country.
Yeah.
I love the opportunities that it has afforded us. It is just unfortunate that people. I wish that every single person who disliked, certain things about the United States could be flown over to one of these other countries, where they don't have rights, where they don't have liberties, where they got to look over their shoulder, wondering if bad things are going to happen. Which, of course, the United States, we have our bad areas and bad things happen all the time. But man, for the most part, we are safe, we are secure, and we can be prosperous, and we have liberties and freedoms. Man, it is the most underappreciated yet the most important thing about life. The liberties and the freedoms that we have. And it's not because I've done anything. I was just born to Mike and Betty Chandler in High Ridge, Missouri. That's all I did to become an American. There's men and women who have fought and died and served to represent that American flag, to fight for that American flag. So I am proud to be an American, man. And it's, as an athlete, of course, we have a platform. As an athlete, we have the opportunity to stand up for different things, whether it be, one side or the other. But no matter what, anything that has to do with the American flag, anything that has to do with the Pledge of Allegiance, the national anthem, man, that is what makes you an American. So it doesn't matter if you're saying, hey, I'm not doing this because of this injustice, this injustice, this injustice. To me, those things should be separate from the men and women who fought and died to defend that red, white, and blue flag. So that's kind of where I've always stood on it. I see these guys I see the people who want to stand up for the injustices, or the flaws in the systems, or the places in America where we do need to be better. Every country needs to be better. America needs to be better. We all need to be better as human beings. It's just how it is. But to me, the two things should be separate. That's just my opinion.
I agree with you 100%, man. It's funny going back to fighting, and I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. I'm curious, how I've watched UFC since the very beginning. So I remember renting the VHS tapes when I was a kid, way back when it was banned in New York. I don't know if you remember that they wouldn't even allow it on pay-per-view where I was.
Yep.
So I had to rent the tapes as a kid. And my question to you is, if the UFC was still bare knuckle and you had to fight 3 times in one night, would you do it?
I would, I think. Yeah. I mean, I got into the sport because number one, I felt I was being called to the sport and I was going to be pretty darn good at it. I didn't want to stop competing. I knew I wanted to stop wrestling. Excuse me. I wanted to stop wrestling, and I wanted to pursue mixed martial arts because I still wanted to compete. Yeah. To me, bare knuckle, 4-ounce gloves, tape on your hands.
Yeah,
I would still do it. I think it would make it just as interesting. And I think I'd still be pretty darn good at it. I might not have fought as long if it was bare knuckle. I've been fighting now for 13 years. We'd all probably have a lot shorter careers, man. But I would definitely do it. It's fun, man. It's the purest form of combat. And I think whether you love mixed martial arts or you don't like it, you dislike it, you're drawn to it in some way, because I believe every human being yearns to fight. Every human being has a yearning to win the battles that are going on, whether they are battles of for me, it's competition, or it's a battle over yourself to be a better man, better woman, better husband, better father, better businessman, better whatever. These are all fights. These are all battles. And I think mixed martial arts fans obviously love the entertainment of it. They love to see two people go at it, get tied onto a tornado and get into a fist fight. But I think mixed martial arts is that physical manifestation of the fights that everybody is going through every single day, whether it's your personal life, your professional life, business, family. We're all going through something, and it's an outlet for people to watch and see. My last fight, I was American. So if you were an American, you were probably rooting for me. But then the guy I was fighting was the guy who's been training since he was 5 years old, from the favelas of Brazil, and he had his country on his back. And win, lose, or draw, either of us we were in a huge fight. We were representing our countries, and he was a guy who came from nowhere, nothing, small town Brazil. I was a guy who came from small town Missouri in the United States, and we were putting it on the line to represent our countries and represent ourselves and our team. And they're high pressure, high stakes situations. So whether there was boxing gloves involved, MMA gloves involved, or no gloves involved, I would do it because I enjoy it, and I think it's a great way to make a living, and it's pretty darn fun.
How do you feel about some of the mixed martial artists transitioning into these attraction fights now? Like we were bringing up about Woodley and Jake Paul. A lot of people consider him like an internet troll, and he says a lot of things just to get attention. And he was spouting off about fighter pay, and that's why these fighters are going, into the boxing events and all that. Is there any truth to that?
I think there's a movement moving forward that is going to show that fighters should be getting paid more. It's unfair. The UFC fighters don't have fair pay.
So I think MMA fighters who, so far Jake Paul has fought a YouTuber, and then he fought a NBA player, then he fought a retired mixed martial artist. Now he's fighting Tyron Woodley, who is not retired by any means. Tyron's a friend of mine, former teammate of mine back at the zoo. But he did just get done with his UFC contract. He's not signed with the UFC anymore. He's on the latter part of his career. Yeah. So you're never going to see a UFC champion come out of his contract and go fight Jake Paul or fight one of these boxers. For anything, I think it's not bad for the sport of mixed martial arts. I think it's bad for the sport of boxing, because essentially you look at Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul is going to be the biggest pay-per-view boxing fight of the year. And it was a YouTuber versus a retired fighter, a retired boxer, and they broke the record. They're going to break the record for highest pay-per-views. I mean, you got Canelo Alvarez, you got Terrence Crawford, you got Caleb Plant, you got all these legitimate boxers out there who are in their prime, and they're doing it, and they're all making really good money. But what's going to happen whenever Canelo Alvarez's next fight does one half of the pay-per-view of that? What happens when the one after that does one half of the pay-per-view of that? It's like the boxing world is delegitimizing itself, whereas mixed martial arts is just kind of staying the same. And while it is, they're both combat sports. Boxing and MMA are just, they're two different sports. It's like badminton and tennis. It's a racket, and it's an object, but they're two completely different sports. And I think it's just delegitimizing the boxing world. And then, Jake Paul is obviously saying a bunch of stuff about fighter pay, but I'm in the camp, man. I'm a free market capitalist. I think Dana White and the Fertitta brothers bought the UFC at $2 million, sold it for $10 billion, but it wasn't because they just did it overnight and they didn't really put any work in. Dana White has had more sleepless nights the last 25 years than all of us fighters put together, because he tried to build a whole industry, a whole sport, and a whole MMA promotion that every other fighter has fed off of for the last 10 years. And I told Dana White that whenever I had my first conversation with him. I said, Dana, number one, I just want to appreciate you. I want to give you a vote of appreciation right now. I don't know if we're going to end up getting a deal done, but I have cashed a lot of checks in the last 12 years before I, became a free agent. And your name was not on one of my checks that I've cashed, but indirectly your name has been on every single one of my checks, because you built this entire sport. So to me, I believe the person who started the company, the person who runs the company, should make the majority of the money. That's just my free market capitalist brain. Yeah. And then everybody else, it's up to them to make themselves an indispensable asset, put their best foot forward, do the right things, become a champion, and then make money on their own accord. And then just like we said, it's 2021. If you're relying just on your fight purses to make a living, that's your own fault. In 2021, you can parlay the platform that the UFC has given you on these huge pay-per-views and these huge ESPN, ABC cards, millions and millions and millions of viewers per fight. If you can't parlay that into something outside the octagon, that's your own fault.
It's interesting, going back to how boxing seems to have compromised the integrity of their own sport. It's funny, going back to the McGregor-Floyd boxing fight, I was blown away that they decided to sanction that fight and actually put it as a sanctioned fight. To me, that throws away the entire integrity. I mean, I know a lot of people have been turned off from boxing for years of corruption, years of fixed endings, paid off judges, all that stuff. But the sanctioning of somebody who's never put gloves on before to fight the greatest of all time, I think that in a way they kind of learned their lesson by making this last one an exhibition like the McGregor one should have been. But how do you take a sport seriously after that when you could just skip the line based on your entertainment value and just get up there? And it's like you don't see that happening in the UFC. I mean, they don't do that bullshit. When they had that WWE guy CM Punk come in, they made him fight an 0-1 guy. You know, it's not like they put him in front of the greatest UFC fighter of all time and skipped everyone else that dedicated their entire life to the sport who's waiting in line. I mean, is that why you don't see a lot of these like YouTubers or these celebrities getting in the octagon? Is it just that Dana White doesn't want anything to do with that side of things, or do they know that they would just get absolutely destroyed?
Yeah, no, I think there's, just like Dana brought over CM Punk or Dana brought in Brock Lesnar when Brock Lesnar had a NCAA wrestling background.
Right.
So he was going to be pretty decent. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think Dana would be open to it, but yeah, you got to start at the bottom.
Yeah.
And truthfully, yeah, putting on boxing gloves and standing in a boxing ring is so much easier than, 4-ounce gloves, the chance of submissions, getting picked up and slammed on your neck, choked out, get your arm broken, leg broken. There's just so many different bad things that can happen.
Yeah.
Getting punched in the face is the only thing that can really happen in a boxing fight. You're talking about knees, elbows, submissions, wrestling. It's just a tougher, I don't want to say tougher because I don't want to discredit the legitimate boxers out there, but it's a tougher way to win a fight. There's 99 different ways that you could get finished and get hurt compared to just getting, beat and knocked out in boxing. And, going back to the legitimacy thing, it was one thing when, Jake Paul versus Ben Askren, these other Jake Paul ones have been under the organization called Triller.
Right.
Triller did the whole like rapping thing with Snoop Dogg and
terrible.
Justin Bieber. And so it was really disheartening that I had to watch like an hour's worth of, a strip club show and a rap video before the fight.
Ass bitch, tap in. Tap, tap, tap in. Diamonds dancing on your neck, nigga, tap in. Tap, tap, tap in. Fucking nigga get rich, bitch, tap in. Tap, tap, tap in. MLB, icy gang, nigga, tap in. Tap, tap, tap in.
Did you see when Ben Askren was backstage and he even brought that up? I watched the whole thing, unfortunately, but he goes, I can't. He goes, I have my children watching this, and my wife like, what the hell is going on?
Wrestling.
Yeah.
How you feeling, man? How do you feel being a part of this psycho event?
That is an understatement. Bert, I love you, but I got all my kids that will come to wrestling academies. They're watching these. Oh man, I feel so bad for the parents that are trying to explain to their kids what's going on TV right now.
Right. Yeah.
So I feel like kind of an irresponsible mentor.
Yeah. So Ben Askren runs a very successful Askren Wrestling Academy. He's probably got like 10, 15 wrestling academies, which means he's probably got 500 youth kids who probably want to see their coach go get into a boxing match. And he's like, I got all these kids around the country right now who I said, hey, watch me fight. And I didn't realize that, the knockoff Cardi B was going to be there, not all naked. And you're just like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
But to me, from an objective standpoint, I say, okay, that's its own thing. Triller is its own thing. Who is Taylor making its show towards the idiocracy of this generation.
Yeah.
But once they put Logan Paul and Floyd Mayweather on Showtime, and then once now Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley is on Showtime, now it's making it even worse because Showtime is the premier spot to watch boxing. Right. Triller was its own thing where you could say, oh, that's just a freak show, buy it if you want. But now it's all under the Showtime banner, which those are still freak show fights, yet it's under the legitimate production company of Showtime. So you're just like, man. But on the other hand, we can't sit here and say, well, it's trash and it's this, because obviously it's working. It's kind of like my conversation with the guy at the YMCA. It was just like, this is just the new way. This is the new normal. So you can either just be mad at it and fight against it, or you can say, hey, how do I monetize this, make money with this, and I guess increase my platform or increase my way of making a living, because this is the new normal. But I don't know. It's crazy.
It's so sad that that is the new normal, just complete degeneracy. And I heard you talk about, like family, God, and friends and all that stuff. It's like, how further removed from all of that could society be when that is what attracts the mainstream? I mean, that whole that show was just a package of what's popular and what people are into. There was like no rhyme or reason. There's no integrity to it. There's no moral to it. It's like, let's just get Snoop Dogg. Let's get a stripper. It's just nothing had any redeeming value to it. And it's just, I felt like that was a complete representation of the times that we're in. You know what I mean? And then you got this comedian coming in, making jokes. I mean, like, it must have been like a clown show to that guy. Could you picture yourself in that position?
Today's a really wild day for boxing because it just shows, how low it's truly sunk.
Imagine you're the oddball in that situation. So now you're basically like, if you look at Triller as a country, you're like in a country out on an island, and you're just, how do you get me out of here? You're trapped.
You're guilty by association. You're guilty by association. Your name was on the top of that bill that people will always talk about. And my wife, so I don't know if you know this, but I wrestled with Tyron Woodley and Ben Askren both in college. They're like, they were the two guys that got me into MMA.
Gotcha.
So they're like big brothers to me. So obviously my wife knows Ben's wife, Amy, and they were messaging back and forth because my wife was taking videos like, "Are you serious? This is what America has come to."
Only imagine.
And then Amy was doing the same thing, and they were messaging back and forth. It's just like, and my wife even was like, "I would be so disappointed if you were in this fight right now," even though I don't think they really understood, because they probably just said, "Oh, it's going to be a kind of a rap concert, and Snoop Dogg's going to be smoking weed the whole time and sipping Hennessy, and that's Snoop Dogg. Like, we love him for that, but that's just who he is, right?" I mean, it was really surreal, and it was almost, for me, it was the longevity of the debauchery that killed me. It was like there was a fight, and then it was like 2 hours of a strip club show, Snoop Dogg and his crew, and then we finally got the last fight, and there was Justin Bieber in there. I mean, Justin Bieber was the highlight, really.
I never thought I would agree with you on that. Were you thinking the same thing when you saw that? I'm like, this isn't that bad. What's happening?
No, thank God. I was like, but the craziest thing about it was Justin Bieber's shoelace came undone like halfway through his performance. And I was just waiting for him to eat it, like flat on his face. Cause like it's almost like that seems like that should be the karma of being involved in something like that.
Yeah.
Like Justin Bieber knocks himself out, fractures his skull because he was a part of the debauchery. Well, not that I would ever wish that on Justin Bieber, but it wouldn't surprise me if that would be the outcome of his performance at something like that.
I thought Oscar was going to fall off of his seat. I don't know what that guy was drunk or what. I mean, he was calling. There was one fighter in there who was, I believe he was like a U.S. veteran, and he kept saying USSR.
Imagine the Golden Boy and Snoop in the same room, baby. In the same room. Let's go, baby. USSR. Because Steve Cunningham is the real deal. He's the USSA, baby.
Well, he was a part of the Navy for 4 years, so he's not the USSR.
Wow. Am I cool or what? Should I get out or what?
But we do know that
Show
he
my
can
fucking
punch
face more.
because when he fought Tyson,
That one USSA, baby. USSA. Deflate the balloon, baby.
The announcers are over there like they were quiet for a bit, and then they had to try to correct him, and he's just going off the rails. Like to me, that whole event just seemed to represent just like all the problems in our country. Alcoholism, drug use, and just, I mean, like, it's a degeneracy. I still can't get over it. I mean, I watched the whole thing because I was entranced by this.
They actually get a contact Mario.
And because this is following what was the last big event? The Grammys with Cardi B in the bed with the girl. She's scissoring another girl. I mean, like it's you realize it's only going to get worse. There's going to be more and more of this. And that's what kind of scares me. But to go back to why I'm happy that we had this chat, it's like I'm trying to promote more people like you who actually have a positive, spin on things, and to really inspire people, because I don't see any inspiration coming from any of that stuff, even in music. I mean, the kind of stuff that they're listening to, man, like there's no moral message to it. And it's just like, how do you, I feel like it's the first generation of people, or maybe I should say kids that are growing up where they're listening to music that doesn't have like a positive spin on it, or there's nothing to be inspired by. I mean, every decade had music that, there's always a message to it. You say in the 90s, Eddie Vedder, just what, I don't know, I mean, like you could go through all the reigns of all the decades, but it's like half the music's just done with auto tune and it's pre-made beats and stuff like that. I know we're getting off in the weeds here, but I feel like it's all relative to the lack of substance that's being promoted to our youth.
Yeah, no, and really I think the thing that we need to really be careful of and look at is really what it is it's a death by 1,000 cuts. It's chipping away at the moral fabric, not by big chunks, but by little bitty tiny chunks every single day. And then people making concessions and certain people, evil prevails when good men stand there silent and do nothing. Good men and women, good people. Evil prevails when good people stand there and do nothing. And that's really what it is coming down to. The death by 1,000 cuts and the chipping away, the tiny little chips away at the moral fabric of this country is just, it's happening day in and day out. And it's happening album by album, tweet by tweet, Instagram post by Instagram post, and boxing fight by boxing fight. And it's, it's part of it, but it's all, I think we need this, to be honest. I think this season that seems like it's been a decade now, but it's only been the last couple of years, and it's really got crazy. And I think we just we need this season to really, hopefully a lot of people are taking a step back and looking at things, even if they say, hey, I don't agree with this, I don't agree with that, but let me look at myself. What can I do to make sure that I make a contribution to my family first? Because I do think it starts in the home. If I can be a good father and a good husband, and I can make sure my wife is happy, my son grows up, knows that he is in a loving home and can be a high functioning member of society and contribute to society. If each of us can do that within our homes, then a neighborhood turns into a positive situation, and then a county turns into a positive situation, and then the state turns into a positive situation, and then the country, so it all starts back at the home, and it's just the constant chipping away of the moral fabric of the country. But I think it's also hopefully a self-cleansing time right now. Maybe it's positive, maybe it's confident expectancy and a little bit of foolish positivity, but I'm hoping that's the case.
I'm hopeful too, man. I used to think in my head, I go, with all this internet stuff where we're kind of seeing a lot more of what's going on than we're normally used to in the past, where we're able to see that everything going on and talking about the degeneracy and the cutting of the moral fabric of the family unit and all that stuff. I feel like we have a mirror held up to our face now, like you said, and it's like maybe we do need to see how bad it is, because I gotta imagine all those people existed before our generation. It's just now we're seeing inside everybody's homes. Everyone's got a camera and everyone's recording everything. So I feel like we're realizing how bad it really is. But I don't know if it's gotten worse. I think that it's enabling people to think that it's okay to be like that. But I guess guys like us have to push back, or people that are really passionate about their, the traditional family unit and whatnot. I mean, maybe like you said, this is a time for us to kind of rise up and speak up and not be afraid to be ourselves. And as long as we're coming from a good place. But, to switch gears before I let you go, man, I'm kind of curious, what's your top 3 UFC fighters of all time?
Ooh, top 3 UFC fighters of all time. I'll start with number 3. Let me think. My personal top 3. I would go number 3, Chael Sonnen. Not because he won a ton of fights. He actually lost a lot of fights. I just loved watching him fight. I loved the entertainment that he brought. Toward the end of his career, he became even more and more crazy on the mic and cutting promos. But I look at him as the first guy who really started cutting promos and just brought the entertainment aspect of things. He was the first guy. He was the Conor before Conor,
True.
My second would be Frankie Edgar, who's actually still fighting. So I don't want to, I don't want to act like he's, done anytime soon. But Frankie Edgar is my probably second favorite to watch. And then greatest of all time, I think, is George St. Pierre. And that's mainly because of his integrity, just the way that he carried himself, how he fought. He was a champion for so long. He got beat by Matt Serra, got knocked out, came back, won the title again. Because everybody loves a winner.
Yep.
of course, but people love even more the guys who lose and are able to pull themselves back and come back to the championship. And that's what we all strive to do, strive to be. Not only is fighting a physical manifestation of the fights that we're going through, like I said earlier, but we are just like the average person, just like the person sitting on the couch watching us fight, man.
Right.
Just like they lose, we lose. How are you going to come back from it? So George St. Pierre embodies that. Frankie Edgar is just a hard-working, blue-collar kid from Toms River, New Jersey.
Rocky.
And then I think the Rocky, man, yeah. And then Chael Sonnen, was, kind of the first guy to be, he almost beat Anderson Silva, probably one of the greatest of all time. Who probably should be in the top 3. I just didn't really like watching him fight that much because we were different kind of styles. He was tall and skinny, and I was short and squatty like Frankie Edgar and George St. Pierre. So those have been my top 3.
Dude, thanks so much for doing this, man. What are you focused on now, and where can everyone follow your journey, and what do you want to promote?
Of course, man. No, thank you. I mean, right now I'm just focused on, in between training camps, I want to get better as a human being, better as a father, husband, fighter. I'm doing some coaching calls and stuff on every other week. And then I wrote a 14-day mindset booklet called 14 Days to the Top. You can check it out on 14daystothetop.com. It was kind of my way. Whenever COVID hit, I said, man, what am I going to do right now? Because I can't go to the gym. I can't do anything. Of course, I can go run. So I'll go run for an hour and come back. What am I going to do for the rest of the day? I sat down at this desk right here for 48 hours straight, and I just wrote out this 14-day kind of. It's meant to be read like a devotional. You read page 1, and then you do the action steps for page 1, and then you move on to day 2, day 3, day 4. And then, obviously, as you alluded to, I like to inspire and motivate people through my Instagram at Mike Chandler MMA, man. It's just that's my best way and most fun way to reach people, talk to people, get hated on by people, but then also enjoy the process and see it all. So thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. All right, guys, we're out of here. Bye.